OpenNebula Conference 2024 panel on Democratizing Private 5G through Open Solutions. Today in the panel, we have participation of several experts on the field of Open RAN and solutions to private 5G. So with just a brief introduction before we give the panel to each one of the experts, to give you some context, the private 5G has for many years been focused on large enterprise and mainly corporate large enterprise users. But at OpenNebula, we have a vision that an open or disaggregated solution from the RAN to the core all the way to the public cloud will expand the private 5G market to the SME, municipalities, health, and educational institutions. To make this vision a reality, OpenNebula, together with relevant partners, is building a solution capable of providing private 5G plus edge computing capabilities for third-party services beyond the telco needs. Today, we count with the participation, and please introduce yourselves as I bring you on board, of Duncan Club from 5SkyE, which is a company that brings quite a novel infrastructure solution to the market. Duncan, please.
Yeah, hi, I'm Duncan Clubb. I'm the CTO of 5Sky. We provide infrastructure for smart cities, for anywhere that needs to take advantage of the new advanced information and communication technologies. Our key product is an integrated 5G, 4G Wi-Fi tower with edge compute built into it. We think that the power of 5G really only comes alive when you add low latency, high capacity edge compute to the mix. So we've produced infrastructure that supports that. Designed to go into urban environments, public spaces, and we are working now all over Europe and the Middle East.
Okay. Juan Luis Garcia, your company as well has a very interesting view on the SME private 5G market. Tell us about your proposition and how it will benefit this offering.
Well, we are a core vendor, core provider. In fact, we are a full service provider. Our proposition is to avoid vendor lock-in. Okay, we've been doing that for many years. But now, when the 5G philosophy is coming to the market, and it's coming to the world, what we are offering, it's a full cloud native way of working. It's not only for 5G, being honest. We got that from the old legacy 3G to the 5G going to VoLTE. And what we are proposing here is something not far away from what Duncan just said. We can deploy everywhere. We can get into any other dependency. We can give the full service by our own. And our idea, along with you guys, is to make real what we've been trying to do for many years, like democratizing the telco service.
Okay, Matteo Gradi from Nuetroon. Following the previous introductions, can you briefly tell us about your company offering on this regard?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Alfonso, and thank you to OpenNebula for inviting me to participate at this panel. Very glad to be here. I'm Matteo Grandi, I'm VP of Business Development and Innovation at Nuetroon. The key product of Nuetroon is a SaaS platform that enables multiple actors to operate multiple private networks, vendor agnostic and also technology agnostic. So you can see the platform as an umbrella system that sits on top of the different private networks that a user can have. So you can think of a system integrator, mobile network operator selling to different companies, or a same group with different location and different networks all across the world, providing them with a simplified overview on the networks and a way of managing the networks in a consistent way. So from the configuration, so everything from day zero, deployment configuration, up to the operations and maintenance in a very simplified and automated way.
Great. Last but not least, Artur Kiemlewski. For what you have been able to see, your commercial solution is one of the lightest available in the market. Provide us a brief insight of how you do it.
Yeah, hello. Happy to do so. So thank you, Alfonso, for inviting as well as into that conference and especially this debate. Well, yeah, for those who have not heard about us, I hope not so many, as well as is an European challenger providing RAN for 5G and beyond. And now you ask me what we do differently, right? So today, vast majority of 5G solutions are the evolution of 4G. And in many cases, the 4G was an evolution of 3G and so on. So today's the 5G solutions provided by the other vendors are very bulky and they carry a lot of legacy stuff. When we at IS Wireless a few years ago started architecturing our 5G solution, we tried to predict the challenges of the future and prepare the software for that. Yeah. And now the challenges which we considered. I mean, all the people dealing with mobile networks know that on the average, the usage of the network resources is very small, meaning the vast majority of time, the costly network infrastructure is simply idling. On the contrary, currently, many of us observe that even in areas where the coverage is good, very often you cannot get network services because there is not enough capacity. So what is the conclusion? The conclusion is that the network resources are not where they are supposed to be, simply, because there is a static distribution of them. Yeah? And now imagine that the operator builds up its network just to handle the average average usage, and whenever the demand is going beyond, then he temporarily uses the available third-party compute resources from the cloud or from whomever, really. It could be even a private persons. Yeah? So this could significantly reduce the network costs at the same time improve the service quality. So we have prepared our solution in a way to be like a liquid. So we call it liquid RAN. It's our trademark because it behaves like a liquid. If you need more resources, you can pour it into the temporary resources, and when you don't need it, you just suck it off. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's very interesting concept. But there is also the second important aspect which we have considered at the beginning. I mean, all of us know that the traffic is gonna grow and grows continuously. So if you want to deal with the capacity demand, you have to add new nodes simply. Yeah. But by adding new nodes, you add also interference to the signal. And the effect is that you can enjoy the better quality only in the vicinity of the node. And the additional drawback is that the more you add, the smaller is the area of the better quality because all the other nodes are simply interfering with each other. Mm-hmm. So now imagine that you can handle the radio resources, that they are not competing for the resources, but they are cooperating. The result is that you can get much more capacity from simply the same infrastructure. So a few years ago, we envisaged those important aspects and set up the architecture to cope with them. Today, we have a completely different solution than all the others on the market.
Great. Then, as I understand, this copes very well with Juan Luis's offering that that you are also containerizing and
absolutely
virtualizing the core. Great.
Absolutely. So you have to go for virtualization. You have to go for containerization, but you have to also be able to be offloaded, for example, to the cloud. Yeah, on the fly.
Totally, I'm really happy about what you just said. I mean, I think that's completely the same approach from different parts of the full service. So really happy to be here with you. I feel that we're completely aligned, at least part of us.
And Mateo,
Thank you, Don. Yeah.
you take care of bringing all the pieces together, make sure that we can communicate and
yeah, exactly. Basically, from Nuetroon, we can sit on top of all the segments of the network. So the RAN, the transport, the core, and also the edge computing, providing an holistic view on all the network, and actually I'd say all the networks, because then we have, let's say, a concentrated management for certain things that can be common to the network, for instance, SIM and EC management, the roaming, or the alerting, the metrics. So gathering, since we have an holistic view on all the networks, gathering all this information, and then when you have the data, basically you have the, let's say, the new gold of this era, because you can do whatever once you have the data in one single place. And for us, it's very easy to integrate also new vendors. We have, let's say, on the southbound interface, different microservices to talk with different protocols and such with different vendors. We can integrate with vendors through their MNS. We can integrate vendors talking directly to the device. And on the northbound interface, we provide basically a simplified view on all the networks, so that you don't have to be expert in every single vendor in order to manage it. This simplifies a lot the deployment and the operation, reducing quite consistently the costs. And this, of course, reducing the costs of the OpEx, essentially, makes the technology even more accessible, especially for SMEs.
Great. We're taking a view from top to bottom now. OpenNebula offers, of course, provides here the glue that puts all the pieces together, does the virtualization, containerization, federation, orchestration, and makes it, as you said, available to everybody easily. We're also a very lightweight platform and very suited for 5G and beyond. And now, Duncan, you can explain us in a little more detail, the beauty of your offer, because you are in the infrastructure side of what we just mentioned. So you can. Yeah,
so we would love to host all of you in our towers, because I think, as I was saying, the real power of the new technologies, 5G, and especially with private spectrum 5G, only comes alive for us when you add in, the edge compute platforms, and being able to create a network of high performance nodes that, are arranged in a cooperative way, as Arthur was saying. That is incredibly powerful, and you can do some amazing new things with this. And we're talking about democratizing access to private 5G. So you've been able to do this for a few years, but it's very expensive and very complex. And so really big industrial companies, for example, have been able to get fantastic performance improvements. And we think the time's now, available because of products like you all produce, and the wider availability of the hardware, that we can now provide access to these technologies in a much more wide scale. And so our towers are designed, like I said, to go into public spaces. They don't look like antennas. They have digital screens on them that can be used for information systems or for advertising. Most importantly, though, they have a full rack of whatever you want to put in it, but it's basically a standard data center rack with the usual sort of battery backup and cooling systems to allow us to put in, could be GPU arrays if we want to support AI platforms. It could be standard server platforms and storage, and certainly there's a whole load of network kit we need to support as well. But the idea is to provide a platform for whatever applications our end users want to use. Now, that could be consumer-led applications, or it can be industrial, manufacturing, can be in transportation hubs. We also provide in our TAS the ability to mount significant numbers of IoT devices. So, I mean, the obvious ones is we have high definition cameras mounted on them. A lot of the applications that we're looking at relate to security, but we can have things like air quality, noise detection, any form of sensor that you need to deploy to support the applications. And I think it's really important that we recognize that this is all about applications, right? So everything we do supports this next generation of applications, many of which are based on video analytics. And this is why the use of things like 5G, Wi-Fi 6, and but most importantly, very low latency edge compute is so important, because these applications can't be done using the infrastructure that the core cloud provides, unless you happen to be right next to an Amazon data center. Most of us aren't. We need the technology deployed where we are, whether that's in an industrial setting or in a transportation hub or in a public space, like a sports stadium. One of the key things that Five Sky started off to address was increasing density of 5G coverage. But there's so much more to it than that. And I think the possibilities now are manifold, and that's what's making our industry so exciting.
Great. So I think we all agree on this concept of democratizing 5G, private 5G, and bringing it to a wider audience and market segments. So Matteo, anything you want to add on this concept of democratizing 5G?
I think that the concept of democratizing private 5G is quite broad. We can see this concept from a different perspective. Of course, there is the economical aspect is the first one that probably comes to mind. So reducing the capex and the opex, especially if we think about incumbent vendors that for years they basically ruled this technology with typically very high capex. But we can also see it from the technological aspect. So is the technology sufficient to fulfill the needs for the different use case and business case of the new, let's say, potential users that can adopt this type of technology? Is the technology accessible enough? So is it simple enough to be used? We have to consider, for instance, scalability aspects. Is the technology scalable enough? Is it future-proof? Is it flexible enough? And also from the environmental perspective, because depends where you are deploying, in which verticals you are deploying, there might be matter of efficiency, power consumption, and so on. I think that in this aspect, I share your vision that having a disaggregated infrastructure in which you can mix and match different solutions in kind of sort of Lego bricks fashion, it can, of course, bring a lot of benefits in terms of flexibility, in terms of scalability, and of course, in terms of the possibility of choosing the solution that is the best suit for fulfilling the requirements of your use case. Of course, with this comes the complexity. And this is our role to manage this complexity, to make it simple, to automate, and to try to make this technology even more accessible for a wider and broader number of users.
Yeah, just adding to that, we agree there that to come to this new market segment and to deal with enterprises or organizations that don't have a strong IT or telecommunications knowledge, we have to be able to provide that helping hand to bring them from where they are at now and bring the whole product. And I think all of us here have that same vision that this is not going to be a packaged solution that you put in the market and somebody's going to be able to download it and deploy. So it's going going to take a lot of us. In the last 6 months, I've been reading several articles from a specialized newsletter analyst indicating that the telco capex spending is expected to be down this year and years to come. My opinion is that operators in the European Union especially are now taking seriously open solutions aimed at avoiding vendor lock-in, reducing some of the 5G standalone deployment cost. We are OpenNebula are betting that we are going to be the platform of choice to help disaggregated solution providers bring forward their solutions. Do you agree with this approach? Juan Luis, what can you tell us? Because you, not only in the EU, you have also expanded to other markets.
I completely agree on that approach. In fact, I think it's pivotal in the telco now. Only by letting, by democratizing the vendors, the clients, like the end-to-end chain, we could be, or we can get out of what this kind of let's say trend that you're talking about. I mean, we've been doing that for our whole life, as I was saying before. Right now, it's the time, and the technology is letting us do that, to get into the market, to let the final clients decide what's the best for them. As Mateo was saying, not only in terms of money, that it's important, but they have to choose freely what they want to do. And only by that, we will enhance the innovation, we will enhance the competitiveness, and finally, not only we can have new vendors bringing new innovation to the market, but we've been a vendor for so many years, and only having people challenging us, we've been moving and we've been leading the market. So that's more or less, many players said that they were really success in their careers because they had really big challengers around them. That's the idea of that. And with this OpenNebula here being this platform, trying to by using new standards, by using the open standards, TNCF, about all of them, we can finally bring to the final clients, as you were saying before, to the services that are what really matter at the end. We can get to them in the best way, in a less cost way, in a more efficient way, taking into account the end-to-end flow. In that sense, what we are doing, as we were saying, is that, for example, Mateo was saying that with his company, he's able to get into the north and the southbound. We can bring a full solution. So I have to say that if finally the final client wants to choose, like, let me say, one vendor, that it's okay. But the idea is for him to be free to go to only one vendor, okay, not to have a lock-in there. At that time, what we do think is the best for the market is that whatever we do is completely able to connect to any vendor, and for sure it's using completely open development, let me say. And if Mateo wants to work with me, I'll make his life as easy as possible, and I will tell him, don't worry, I use open telemetry. You don't have to get into some weird protocol that I may have. I'm completely able to integrate with you. And for me, that's the future. That's what I've been trying to do in the past. And finally, I believe that with 5G and with initiative as OpenNebula is having, we're here, guys. So completely agree with what you're doing in a nutshell.
Arthur, anything to add here? I think you have put
Sure.
some thoughts together.
Sure. I mean, you know, Alfonso, that we consider OpenNebula as a disruptor, yeah, and sorry for that.
No problem.
I have some problems at home.
It's 8 in the morning.
Duncan, you wanna follow on?
Can I say something.
Yeah, sure.
Just building on what you've been talking about, we completely see the same pattern happening. The big telcos and mobile operators don't have the capex anymore. They spent so much on spectrum and on building out infrastructure, and the additional investment to increase coverage of 5G in particular is so expensive that open solutions are really the way forward. And our towers will carry antennas and RAN systems for up to 3 mobile operators, but actually we think it's much better to look at neutral host operators using Open RAN. And what we're seeing now, there was a lot of reluctance from the mobile operators to adopt this sort of stuff, but now I think they have no option, and they are all opening up to this new way of using infrastructure, which for everyone like us is really good news.
Great. Arthur, you were saying?
Yeah, sorry for the interruption, but since I'm working from home today, I had some issues. Well, yeah, coming back to the point, obviously, I mean, the solution like OpenNebula, I mean, I like this solution because it's a kind of disruption, yeah, I can say. And we consider ourselves also as a disruptor, so that's why I believe that there is a lot of similarities between our companies, and by the way, between all of us here, I consider all of you as a disruptor. So, and when 2 disruptors are coming into the game, then the value which can be created is much more than just 1 + 1 is 2. It's actually much more than 2. Yeah. So absolutely, I believe that this is the right direction. But you also said something about the European operators, which I would like to say a few words on that. Yes, indeed, we see now more and more openness towards the Open RAN and towards the open systems. This is most likely because the operators they are not only worried that they got like vendor locked, but I think the more important is that they start feeling that they are locked in the dead end road. Yeah. So this innovation is when they consider the traditional vendors. I mean, these innovations are not going to go into the direction where it should be. But generally spoken, I have to say I'm a little bit worried about our European telecommunication ecosystem. I had a lot of talks with the operators from Asia, for example, and I have to say they are much more open for innovations than the European ones. And I'm afraid if this doesn't change soon, then we will be looking into Asia and we will be seeing a lot of innovations there, and then we will be following actually, and not as we used to be, as it used to be that actually we are followed by the others. So this is where I feel a little bit of worry and danger for the European ecosystem.
Great. So and this is this lead us to the next discussion point. Entering the private 5G market for SMEs seems to be a challenge. Due to the dominant presence of not only the incumbent operators, but also the big solution manufacturers with their complex and heavy workloads, as you mentioned before, and we're participating in a European project, in a Spanish project from the Ministry of Digitalization, One Edge 5G, where we're going to try to put all these pieces together and with the funding and bring some industrial solutions aimed at smaller segments, and so we're going to take advantage of what's being this opportunity that the government is giving to us. But what other strategies we have to break into the market? Is an integrated solution part of it? Mateo, what is your view on this?
It's an interesting question. Actually, I guess that depends on which part of the market, but in general, there is not probably a single answer to that, because it's a plethora of different technologies and solutions that we can bring in order to facilitate the penetration in the market. From one perspective, for instance, we can see, let's say, the already consolidated market of big companies and incumbents. As Arthur was saying, the operators needs to wake up. So, for instance, from our personal experience, from Nuetroon perspective, Nuetroon born as an international company, as I guess all the companies that are here in this panel. So we already have deployments in all Europe and also in the United States. And the accessibility to the technology in the United States is much, much easier. Different vendors are more accepted, especially for the CBRS, which is the, let's say, bitter and sweet part. Let's say sweet because, of course, having the possibility of accessing spectrum, and so deploying a radio and core, and deploying a private network in general is much easier. But it's also bitter because CBRS has been designed for 4G. So let's say the private 5G deployment is still, let's say, a bit probably lagging behind. But still, there is a way more adoption there. And operators are actually looking more even into neutral hosting. Not the typical, let's say, distributed antenna system solution, but actually mock and gateway, for instance, in a private 4G and private 5G networks. The same is happening in the UK, while Europe is still lagging behind, and the operators needs to open more, to wake up, to try to, let's say, leave probably a bit the lock-in solution from the big incumbents and trying to adopt other vendors that are challenging the status quo. From the, let's say, the SME perspective, and in general, this type of market, mid-caps and SME that are not so consolidated right now, as I said before, I guess that for them, there are two aspects that are important. One is the economical aspect, and again, can count on different vendors, that so-called tier 2 vendors, so that are not the four main incumbents vendor, can reduce quite consistently the CapEx and can provide also tailored solutions for them. Because many of the SME, they do not need big enterprise networks. They just need some specific network that can solve specific business case for them, efficient, scalable, thinking about the future, and it has to be easy to manage. So it has to be really something that very similar to the Wi-Fi. And also we have to consider the gap that there is between the IT and the OT. So we normally think about, we are all IT people. So we consider the information technology as our world. From the industry perspective, and like I mentioned, industry as a broader, so manufacturing, but also automotive, smart city, healthcare, whatever vertical, they see more their operational technologies. So we have also to find a way to integrate and to close this gap, to integrate the IT part in their OT. So this is the vision of Nuetroon, is also exposing all the network through, for instance, an open API that can be easily integrated with ERP, MES, OSS, BSS, NOC, and so on, so that the IT part can be actually seen as an asset of the OT, of the operational technology perspective. And we can do that thanks to vendors that are challenging the status quo. Vendors like IS Wireless, different core network vendors, and OpenNebula, for instance, for the management of the virtual infrastructure, that can really deploy something that is flexible enough to penetrate this type of market.
And as Juan Luis, as I understand well, in your solution, the core is going to be shared, or that's the idea you have, isn't it? You have shared cores that you don't need to have a dedicated core which is the brains of any RAN deployment. Can you delve a little bit into that?
Sure. At least that's one of the flavors. The core doesn't have to be connected to only one RAN vendor or even to only one operation system. What we do, what was a lot of years ago our vision, now just our mission is to be as soon as possible. Okay, one of the flavors is for sure having a core, just a shared core. Let's think it's just in the middle of the picture, and then there's around a lot of RAN vendors. Even there's edge vendors that can be or cannot be us. We don't need to integrate only with us. Imagine, I mean, we will be completely working against our philosophy. So in that case, talking about cost efficiency, as Mateo was saying, there's no need to have a specific core for a specific client. They can share, but nowadays it's even better because when we say sharing a core, that's not even true. What they are sharing, if they want, may be the infra, the dependencies. But with the hyper-elastic networks, we can bring up a core for a specific service, talking about service, that it's really important, as we were saying, for a specific client under demand in, I'm going to say seconds, but it's even less than seconds. Okay, that's the really great idea of HPA and the new CI/CD way of working and so on. Getting into here, that will be one core that will grow under demand or will not grow under demand. There's a word that Duncan said about his liquid solution, and I'm going to steal that for my marketing department because
that was Arthur said that.
sorry, but that's the idea. There's also a liquid core. Okay, so that comes together really nicely. Typically, everything is made in average with some percentage for the extra usage or whatever. What we can do and what fits really good is to have finally a liquid solution. And yeah, as you can imagine, when I talk about SMEs, I make it as easy as possible to operate and to maintain. But still, I'm talking about the core part, the core one, the edge, and so on. If we bring those liquid solutions that can be brought up under demand, and then we put a little layer on top, as in this case, Mateo was saying, I really think there's no other option that coming to this new way of working. I mean, what we're saying and we're talking here is that with these new standards being as open as possible, for me to have on top a layer to operate, it's only connecting to my open telemetry system. So with that, all my information is going to be wherever it has to be on top, having the core share, but being able to bring up a core under demand on my hyper-elastic solution. I mean, the only way to compete against this right now is by this artificial lock-in. But, well, in Europe, we are a little delayed, as you were saying. If it's happening in the rest of the world, that's going to happen here. And for that, we need you, OpenNebula, to work hard.
Yeah, well, and that brings us probably a lot of people are already, a lot of our people listening and participants on the conference, how do we manage, operate this complex solution from a point of view, but we have simplified it to the extent that, from our point of view, it's not going to be difficult to manage and operate. But, why don't you give us some insights? What is your vision on this? Arthur, starting by you, and then we have Duncan and Mateo, and finish off with their comments on how do they feel they're going to do this portion of the offering.
Yeah. So I would say, first of all, we all should spend all the effort to make it as simple as possible. Yeah. So that's why where OpenNebula comes into the game with the solution. But we all should work against this target. Nevertheless, there will be still a space for third-party companies who will do the operations for the future, I believe. And there is going to be a mixture of everything. Yeah, I think starting from the operators have today a lot of skilled resources to do the network operation. I think they can do the network operation or their public network operation, and also many private islands network operation as well as by themselves. So that would be one scenario. I think there are also some other players who wants to take part in this game, especially providers of the operational management systems, system integrators. All of them actually can also play this role, meaning being like a one center for many different private networks which are implemented in the area. And I also can imagine that for especially big companies, big enterprises, they have also their own people skilled enough to take care of the system, of all the systems they have, so also including private 5G. So concluding, I see actually mixture of everything, dependent on the scope of the operation, dependent on the complexity of the network, and of course the availability of the skilled resources. But the solution is there. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think Artur's touched on some really interesting points there, and I do think we've got a challenge because we're moving from in the IT sense, from a centralized solution to a distributed one, which is one that is much more the standard telco model. But we're bringing together lots and lots of different things now, and they're all going to have to cooperate and work in a distributed environment. So we're already recognizing that challenge. We're going to have potentially towers in hundreds, maybe thousands of locations all across Europe. How do we maintain the hardware, the network, and all the rest of it? And I think a lot of it is still an open question. Resourcing for things like this is going to be challenging, and I think it's something our industry needs to face properly. But
Matteo,
I also think,
and
but I also think the tools that you're producing are incredibly helpful in doing that.
Great. And Matteo, your view, as we're getting.
Personally, I liked very much this way of defining the solution, the liquid solution from Artur. Artur, you should definitely trademark. And actually,
it is already.
it's something that who was Bruce Lee said, "Be water, my friends." So for his martial art Jeet Kune Do. So if we want to have this Jeet Kune Do solution that is really flexible to adapt, and we have to, we are already simplifying it and making it accessible. So when we say challenging the status quo, challenging the operator is not actually that we are challenging them in the sense that we are against. We are offering them a solution. We are challenging them to accept this new way, because it also brings to a new business model. And it's something that we can touch, I guess, in this panel, is the business model that has to be adapted for the new market of SME and mid-caps. The business model with a high capex and tens of thousands of euros per month of OPEX, it cannot work in many of the cases. So perhaps a SaaS business model based only on fair yearly license, is something that is probably a way more suitable for this type of market. So having this flexibility of these liquid solutions is, of course, something that can unlock also new business models for operators and in general for whoever can manage the enterprise. So even system integrator, CSP, I like to call them enterprise network operator or private network operators in general. So all these entities that can manage the network, and they even don't need a lot of specific knowledge, because we are simplifying a lot the way in which they can manage a full network.
Great. Oh, well, we're getting to the end of the panel. We could continue talking for hours. Maybe we'll do another session when we have the idea more a little better put together. That's, we have the concepts right now, but I'd like to see us do a proof of concept and really bring it, strengthen the solution. Thank you very much, Arthur, Duncan, Juan Luis, Mateo, for participating and sharing your thoughts and ideas. I would like to close by, I mentioned it briefly, but talking about the One Edge 5G project that the Spain's government is funding, where we're going to bring all this together. And you can see there that we are, working on adding artificial intelligence, having real industrial solution. So thank you again, guys, and hope to see you soon and keep on working.
My pleasure. Thanks to you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you. It was a pleasure to be among you guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thanks a lot.